you for joining us for this first installment of Carceral Conversations, titled What I Brought Home and Left Behind. Today's featured guest is Bess, and we're excited to have her join us today. And we encourage you to sign up for the rest of the series happening the second Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. by either scanning the QR code on your screen or visiting our website, www.singsingprisonmuseum.org. While you're there, be sure to check out our blog and online exhibit.
Thank you so much for making time for this new program series at the Sing Sing Prison Museum, titled Carceral Conversations, What I Brought Home and Left Behind, Formerly Incarcerated People Sharing Memories and Personal Collections. My name is Amy Huffnagel. I'm the Assistant Director of the Museum Project in Development, slated to open in 2025. Together with my colleagues, we are presenting the first of a 6-part series every second Thursday now through February. So if you enjoyed today's program, please make sure to go to our registration link. We'll put it in the chat and sign up for the next in the series. Each program is designed to build upon the previous conversation, and all of these conversations will be used to inform our processes as we start the museum. So your comments and your questions as audience members really matter to us and play a role in the museum's development. So let's start with a few notes on terms of engagement and on the museum in general. First, language. At the Sing Sing Prison Museum, we use people-first language. So we don't talk about inmates or convicts or felons. We talk about currently and formerly incarcerated people, returning citizens for people who have just recently been released, and justice-impacted individuals, which is anyone who has been touched by the justice system. I don't expect everyone to follow these guidelines, but we always like to start as these terms can in fact be an educational moment in and of themselves. Second is our engagement. So the Sing Sing Prison Museum is hosting this nonpartisan event to foster open, inclusive, and educational discourse about incarceration, history, material culture, and civic engagement in the United States. This event is not intended to be a forum for comment on views about political parties, candidates, platforms. We welcome your participation in the chat, and we will be monitoring both the chat and the Q&A. And we will move our when we move to the discussion part of our program, we'll be using those functions. So please be sure to be in contact with us through either of those methods. Third, it seems important to just explain who the Sing Sing Prison Museum is. We're an independent nonprofit organization led by a deeply dedicated board of trustees and a small staff. We are creating a museum in Austin, New York, whose mission is to share stories of incarceration and reform, past and present, and bring people together to imagine a more just society. We're slated to open, as I said, in 2025, and we are very much open and active virtually and in our capital development phase. So I want to encourage you all to visit our new online exhibition and consider joining us for a face-to-face event on November 2nd to watch the intense documentary film Attica at the Boston Public Library. Well, we'll be joined by the filmmaker Stanley Nelson in conversation with Tyrone Larkins and Joel Motley. Stanley Nelson is a foremost chronicler of African-American experience working in nonfiction film today, and it will be a true pleasure to have him in the theater for this free event. That all said, I want to just put a little bit of framing on our conversations today. This program came about from internal conversations we were having about how objects tell the story of incarceration and whose objects are used to tell that story, what is saved, what is discarded. We all have things we collect and use to decorate our lives and our places, things that ground us in our histories or encourage us to aspire to something better, items that are critical to our daily life. And incarcerated people are largely stripped of possessions as the very first step, and yet can, over time, possess things in their cellular confinement. We wanted to begin to understand how ephemera and objects and creating things takes on value inside a maximum security correctional facility and outside, and why. when we have a stellar cohort of presenters who are going to help guide us through these questions. What does it mean to remember? Each of us have us as people are a place of memory. And then too, we're a collection of memories. Memories are a significant personal collection. Often we use memorabilia or saved collected items of everyday things to link our memory to our outward facing identity and our sense of being human, of being unique. Objects prompt memory or prompt tellings. For instance, there's a stone on my desk, it links to a time. You get the point. So while we're going in on physical things, we know that we are also collecting and shedding experiences and ideas and feelings. Thank you so much to Dee today and all our presenters who are being so generous with their experiences throughout this series. We know it's a hard place to revisit, and we appreciate you remembering publicly to help us understand. So in the spirit of sharing along with you, let's start from the vantage point of the museum's current collection, something my colleague Nicole Hamilton and I are probing constantly. Post-pandemic and post the murder of George Floyd and the social and racial rights uprisings and awakenings that followed this death, museums have been assessing their own role in maintaining white supremacy and ingrained practices. Museums at their best are making sure they are not contributing to systemic injustice in their exhibitions and in their interpretation of objects. And as the collections and program manager for the Sing Sing Prison Museum, Nicole thinks deeply about how collections work to better serve communities, including developing some inclusive policies that account for the unique needs of marginalized groups. She has presented on prison museums and collections and the concerns around those at the AASLH, MAAM, and the Manny conferences. She currently serves on the leadership team for the Association of Carceral Sites and Museums, which is a national organization. She holds an undergraduate degree from Carleton, a master's in museum studies from George Washington University. She will begin this program by sharing something from our collection at this point, and perhaps as a counterpoint, we will explore this material culture of incarceration together. Nicole, thanks so much.
Amy, thank you so much for that introduction. Right, my name is Nicole, my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I want to thank you all for being here with us today. In this first installment, I want to start our conversation with some big picture ideas and get us all to start thinking about museums and collecting with maybe a bit more nuance. So I want to begin with a question, and I'm going to ask you all to respond in the chat if you're comfortable. It's not a quiz, there are no wrong answers, and it's pretty simple. What do museums collect? What stuff do you usually see in a museum? This is our prized 1929 Babe Ruth baseball. And you can see his autograph here. It's a little faded. So on September 5th, 1929, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and the New York Yankees team played an exhibition baseball game at Sing Sing Prison against the prison's Mutual Welfare League team. More than 1,500 incarcerated men gathered in the stands to watch. At the top of the second inning, Babe Ruth drove a ball more than 600 feet over the center field wall, possibly his longest career home run. And he hit 2 more home runs that day and pitched 2 scoreless innings. After leading the Yankees to victory, Babe Ruth stayed around to sign baseballs, one of which is now in our collection. And it's not hard to imagine why the Sing Sing Prison Museum has this. This baseball is all of those things we said museums collect. It's historic, it's valuable, it's rare, it's from a famous person, it has a good story. But at the Sing Sing Prison Museum, we want to interrogate what museums collect and why a bit more closely. And we want to look at what stories can be told when we look at objects a little bit differently. Another story we could tell about this baseball centers not on Babe Ruth or the Yankees, but on the Mutual Welfare League. Founded by Thomas Mott Osborne, the Mutual Welfare League was a form of self-governance for the men incarcerated at Sing Sing. With a motto of do good, make good, it was responsible for the oversight of extracurriculars such as entertainment, education, and athletics. The Constitution of the Mutual Welfare League described it as, quote, An organization having for its object the promotion in every way of the true interests and welfare of the men confined in prison. These reforms were kept up by Lewis Laws, Sing Sing's warden in the 20s and 30s. Regarding these programs, Laws wrote, quote, "We have advanced beyond the theory of isolation for prisoners. We should recognize as well the importance of well-regulated, supervised, and helpful worldly contacts. A baseball game or a football contest with reputable outside teams serves a twofold purpose. Visitors learn to understand that prisoners are human, and prisoners appreciate the necessity of playing the game on the square with their fellows. The urge for normal contact, which is thus kindled, keeps many prisoners to the line of reason and conformity. Its influence is far." So by looking at the baseball in this context, we see it not as an object of Babe Ruth's victory, but a piece of social control by Laws. Those 1,500 incarcerated spectators watching Babe Ruth were themselves watched over by heavily armed guards. So at the Sing Sing Prison Museum, we don't value this baseball because of Babe Ruth's autograph, but because it sheds light onto the incarcerated experience. So when we probe a little bit more into what we've collected, we can go beyond that flashy blockbuster story that museums so often want to share. And at the Sing Sing Prison Museum, we want to do that not just by interrogating our collection, but by looking to unexpected objects and how they connect places and people and memory. So with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Mimi Coffey, a museum associate at the Sing Sing Prison Museum. In addition to her work at the museum, Mimi works tirelessly as a criminal justice activist, blending the worlds of justice reform and media. She's a co-founder of the Social Justice Network with a mission to educate, empower, and uplift communities adversely affected by the legal system. She'll be leading the rest of today's discussion. Mimi?
Thank you so much, Nicole. And thank you so much, Amy. I am so excited to be here today. I want to say good evening to everyone. I know she introduced me already, but I'll just say a little bit about myself. My name is Minerva Mimi Coffey. I'm an associate of the Sing Sing Prison Museum, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. And today we embark on a profound exploration of memories, resilience, and the tangible and intangible remnants of incarceration. Our aim is to understand the deeply personal choices individuals make about what to bring home from prison and what to leave behind. You know, the act of bringing something home from prison can be deeply symbolic and personal. These objects might represent a piece of their identity during their time, a reminder of resilience, or even a token of relationship or skill that was developed while they were incarcerated. Conversely, what one chooses to leave behind can signify a desire to move on or to share a part of their past or to leave behind a painful memory, or as I would say, leave behind a platinum token. Now, I would love to introduce today a remarkable individual by the name of Dorian Bess. She is not only an advocate, she is also an engagement officer for the Social Justice Network and has 18 years of lived experience in the criminal justice system. Dorian has an intensified work history in the fields of reentry services, mental health, women's trauma, and substance abuse. As a justice-impacted citizen, her dedication to interfacing with local groups, state, and federal agencies has shown her ability to drive change, communication, and leadership. Dorian, I could go on and on and on and on and on about you, but could you please share a brief introduction about yourself to our audience and your journey leading into today's conversation?
Thank you so much, Minerva. Thank you, Amy, and the whole Sing Sing prison team for inviting me into this webinar and allowing me in this space. One label you did not mention is I am a super proud mom through all of that. Um, I have one son, and he is absolutely my life, and he is my mission as well. Why I do the work that I do. Um, he has been my biggest cheerleader, and he's been through a traumatic experience as well as I was going through the incarceral system. Again, thank you for allowing me to share this space with you. I do the work. I work for two nonprofit organizations. One helping returning citizens repair, heal, empower, and move forward in life. And another program that I work with, I assist women coming out of substance use disorders and reestablishing their place back into society as well. So thank you again. It is truly an honor to be on this panel with you guys today.
Well, thank you for, doing the work. Thank you for just being here with us and supporting our cause. But we're going to jump right in because our audience just wants to know. The theme of our webinar is about the items individuals bring home and those items that were left behind after incarceration. So can you just share with us, some particular items or memories that you chose to bring home and its significance to you?
Okay, so when I was released in 2019, um, I brought home a very small bag, which I still have that bag actually. I brought home my ID from the prison, and I brought home all my letters and all the banners of birthdays celebrated while I was incarcerated. Um, but the one thing I want to highlight is the identification, which I still keep to this very day. And I kept my ID because growing up, a young African American young lady, I struggled with identity throughout my entire life. And then during my incarceration, it didn't change much. Um, so bringing my ID home was something to not identify with the scarlet letter, of being incarcerated, but to help me identify where my place is now in society after incarceration. And I keep that in the forefront of all the work that I do because we don't want to allow labels or numbers or names being called identify us. So it was kind of twofold for me. I started learning what my purpose was by keeping that identification because I realized that wasn't my purpose in life. Being incarcerated was something I went through. It is not my identity. And when I got my driver's license, when I came home, I said, you know what? Having a driver's license and this number attached to it as well did not identify me as well because people don't know the work that I do. But it gave me identity using those objects, using the objects of identity. Um, as my focal point in identifying who I am and what my purpose is, in society and where my place should be as a middle-aged African American single mom who is doing, the work of social justice, criminal justice, and substance use disorders and trauma with women. And that was why I chose to really reflect on the identity.
I know we had discussed this before, but do you happen to have any of the objects with you at the
I
moment?
don't. So I do apologize, and I wish I could have gotten them, but unfortunately, I had a tragic fire in May, and a lot of my stuff is still in transition storage. Some stuff I thought I had here, some stuff is over there.
Wow.
But I really wanted to show my ID, my little bag, and banners people made for me for my birthday. They did not forget, even though I was away. roommates and people who lived in the dorm with me, making these huge banners, putting them on my door. I still have those things. I still have them. It's
Well,
incredible
I got
that I
so
keep
many
those.
questions. Let me tell you, I have so many questions that I know we're going to touch back on it, and hopefully our audience will as well. But building on that, objects often serve as a silent witness to our life's chapters. So how does the item you brought home encapsulate your experience during your time on the inside? I know you talked about it now, but how did that, how did you deal with that on the inside? Like making decisions on, okay, this is something that I definitely want to take or put aside or not tear up. Like, walk us through that.
Well, keeping letters and cards from people from the outside was almost, I want to say for me, was almost expected because, we're family, right? We're supposed to be in contact. But having people on the inside really take the time out to spend that dollar, to purchase a card for you for your birthday on your birthday, and have that like all over your room when you go to lunch and come back and you see this big surprise, like you realize that you've made an impact on other people's lives while living in these small spaces with them. And to me that was just like, oh my God, like I didn't want anybody to do anything for my birthday because I'm here, but they always made birthdays and anniversaries and even your children's birthdays feel so special. And that was something that I wanted to bring home with me as memories of those days where I might have been crying on the phone and feeling like I should be home with my son, but unfortunately I'm here. But they made my day so special inside that I can't like throw that memory away. Soon as I open up those posters and cards, I remember the whole day as if I was there right now. It's incredible the feeling that it gives me.
You definitely make me want to cry. I want to cry right now with you
Too, but I'm
because
not going to.
you know what? Not that, and I'm glad you touched on that because not that many people, you gave me goosebumps, like really, not that many people even experience what you just talked about. Some people live their life inside and never experience the reflection that you are going through right now. So you touching me. I'm pretty sure you're touching everyone else in there. You're definitely taking me there. And I want to switch a little bit perspective because the decision of what to leave behind can be just as meaningful, right? So where there's items or memories that you consciously decided to part with or to leave, or to say, you know what, this has to stay here. This belongs with somebody else.
The things I left behind, of course, is the prison uniforms.
Of course.
I love the uniforms, but the shoes I wore inside, I definitely didn't want to walk in those shoes. And people were like, those sneakers are perfectly good. And I was like, give them to someone else who will have to be here, that can fit them. But I did not want to walk in the shoes. For me, items that I carry around, I carry for a specific reason. And because of who I am and my religious background, I just felt like I wanted to walk in new shoes. I wanted to walk in a new life, and I did not want those shoes. I did not want the shoes. I definitely left the shoes behind, but some things, and I don't know if you already said this, the intangible things that I left behind um were the women that I had bonded with over those long years. And I might cry now, the
Oh,
women that cried with me when I got off the phone, the women that prayed with me when I asked for prayer, the women who ate lunch with me every single day, the women who made popcorn and sat and watched movies with me on the weekends, the women who walk with me to work. Um, you know, Having to leave them behind was very hard. Literally, they called my name 3 times to R&D because I was hugging everybody. um Literally, like, don't worry, I'm gonna reach back and pull you out of here. And fortunately the pandemic happened and released most of those people, so we were able to meet up afterwards, and they actually a few that left before me actually met me at the halfway house. So leaving people behind. I don't know about anywhere else, but I know women created bonds inside. You had the auntie, you had the abuela, you had the
Mhm.
cook, you had
And I think what
the
we decide
weeping
to leave
person.
goes to like certain people. Like this has to go to my auntie. This specifically,
Exactly.
doesn't even belong outside of the prison because it's been handed to you and passed down from other women to other women.
Absolutely. We
Um,
created families in there. It didn't matter a political stance. It didn't matter where you were raised or born. It didn't matter how much money you had or didn't have. It didn't matter who did what. We didn't care about each other's crimes. All we knew is that we were women. 80 More than 80% of us were all mothers. Um, More than 65% of us were had all experienced traumatic experiences or abuse from a loved one or the one that we were still with. And we found solidarity behind those walls and were able to start some of our healing processes. Not completely healed, but some of our healing
well,
processes.
well, well, you know what? It's the perfect segue into the next question, right? So thinking about the emotional weight of objects, because that's where all this came out, right? The emotional weights
Hmm.
of what we left behind and to who we're leaving it to, right? In many cultures, there seems as a carrier of energy or of emotion. Do you view the items that you brought home as a source of strength or reminder or even a burden? Like I know you talked about it with your card and stuff, but then like talk to me about this bag that you brought home. Like what what was that like? And why was that? Like
Some
what
people
significance is it?
some people are released, right? And we have to see, unfortunately, parole or supervision afterwards, right? One of my requirements for supervision still is that I complete a degree, and I carry all my important documents in that book bag, in that little gray bag that we use for commissary when I have to see my probation officer or take care of significant business. That is my bag. When I was in school for my KSAC, that was my bag that I keep all my papers, all my documents in, and I keep them because I know for whatever reason, I believe that that bag just protects those documents. It might seem weird to other people, but I've never lost anything out of that bag. I've never I've never lost anything out of that bag. I tell you, I can pull up every single certificate I received inside, every certificate I've received outside, every award, everything is. I stuff it in that bag. That bag is about to fall apart soon, but it is
It's about
my
to fall apart, but it
survival
still
bag. It's
holds
my
everything.
survival bag.
And do you think about stuff like that when you get out? Like, because do you consciously think like, well, I can buy a new bag when I get out, but let me just put this in a laundry bag or whatever. No, you're like, let me take this mesh bag.
I think I'm a symbolic person. I'm also a person who, like I said, I carry things very deeply with me, and it's a constant reminder of the work we still have to do. That people are actually carrying this bag on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or Tuesdays and whatever their shop days are. People are carrying this bag, and this is all that they may have, right? This is all that might be, for the week, for the month. This is all that they may have. And for me, symbolically, it's like, we're so blessed to have life after incarceration. And I'm
Listen,
just, I'm just
I remember
grateful for
people
that
still
bag.
stitching that bag together. Like it's broken, but you're
With
still
crochet,
crocheting
with
it.
crochet yarn. You have all types of little patches on it with crochet yarn in the hook. And it's just like, um,
But you know what? It's a perfect set. Hold that thought right there because, right, objects and memories from incarceration can be a powerful tool for advocacy, which is what you had discussed, and you talk about it now, right? So how have you leveraged your experiences and the items that we had talked about and you have brought home to drive positive change into society? Like, how do you look at that object and reflect it into the work that you're doing and keep that connection still?
Well, I just want to say that the the object actually I carried with me to my very first um NAN meeting. I carried it with me to my very first CCF wish program. I carried that bag with me um to Hostos Community College for my KSAC. Um you know,
I think you should explain to the people because you actually wasn't released. You had to really think about the next journey, which was the halfway house.
right. So I wasn't released. I had to spend um 6+ months in the halfway house as part of my sentence in order to be released. And my time there was not an easy time, but I knew that I had to fight for what I wanted. Now that I was halfway out the door, and my bag and my ID played a significant part in all of that, because I wanted to always remember why it was so important for me to do some of the programs that I did, complete them, to get involved with some of the organizations that I got involved with, and be heard, because I had to remember um, the people who were still carrying the bag and the ID inside, and I know that I wanted them to be able to come out and step in the same walk. Everybody is not a fighter, a protester, an advocate, and I get that. But I wanted to be the voice of the voiceless, and the bag and the ID constantly reminded me of why I was doing it, for those who felt like they still had no voice, for those who felt like they still couldn't identify, and do the work that I do for those who struggle when they do come home.
Wow. Well, I have more questions, but I see one from our audience, and if you don't mind me just asking you
Sure.
quick, right? So someone asks, how has your transition been um
Mm.
from then, you know?
So I'm going on 5 years home. My transition was definitely a struggle. I came home to two parents who were sick with cancer. My mom was sick with lymphomic cancer, and she still survived. She's still here. My dad with prostate cancer, and he's still here. Both in remission status. My dad completely free of cancer cells. Um, as I was in the halfway house fighting to go to the hospital every single day while he was had his surgery. Um, 43 days of radiation, fighting with the halfway house, along with still going to school, programming, and meeting my supervision mandatories. So my first year was kind of rough, but I got involved with organizations like College and Community Fellowship, National Action Network, and I met some amazing women who were going on the same kind of journey that I was going on. And they took me under their wing, and I was in Beyond the Bars and the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Girls and Women. And I went to Alabama to their conference, right after I got out the halfway house, and it opened my eyes to a whole new world. Like, there are people out here actually walking the walk and talking the talk after incarceration. And it's been up since then. It's really been up
Did
since
you
then.
think that you were gonna do like the advocacy work while you was inside? Like,
Absolutely not. I had plans of advocacy work, but I had no plans of doing an ad council video for fentanyl. I had no plans of doing a CCF video for Pell and Tap to be brought back into New York State facilities. I had no idea I would be in some spaces that I was going to be in. I had no idea I was going to be on radios and panels and invited back to
And
places
here with
and
us
here Sing
today,
Sing Prison Museum.
that's most
I
important.
I had no idea that this road would lead to where I am currently. And I'm just sometimes I'm just in awe. Like I'm just in awe. Like
Well,
it's just a
I'm gonna
blessing.
ask you two more because I want to be just respectful of our time because I have like a couple of more little questions for you. But somebody asks, did Dee Dee keep a diary? And I don't even know if that means did you keep a diary inside? Did you come out and keep a diary outside? Because that is important, and you never talked about bringing a diary home.
Well, I actually before I came home, I journaled just about every single day. I have a big giant box of journals over my years of being in. And no, I didn't do a tell-all book of what was going on behind the walls. It's actually a book of prayers that every day I prayed for my son. And whatever I prayed for him and my family, I wrote them down in my journal. So it's more of a meditation and prayer journals, which I don't know, spoiler alert, I may turn into one big book, praying over your son while, being away or separated. And some of the prayers I actually shared with women whose children were in foster care. So,
Awesome. Well,
yeah, I
somebody else
have.
asked, did your son say things from your incarceration?
Yes, actually, which is so weird. If I can't even find that letter, but I put it somewhere. I found a letter from 2018 where I actually wrote out the prayer and sent it to him, and he still had that letter. I mean, literally carrying it around. Now, my son lives in Virginia. I live in New York, and it was here at the house. And I was like, "What are you doing with this letter?" He was like, "Ma, I found this. I still had it." And I was like, "Wow, wow." And we just hugged and cried for a few
Aw.
seconds and was like, oh.
Well, this is my last viewer letter, a question. Now you got me with letter in my head. So, what items would you suggest a person being released bring home? Are there items a person should consider getting prior to their release? Mm,
um,
so
so
broad and
ev-
so
so
big.
everyone knows what their situation is gonna. Well, some people know and some people don't know. It might be a surprise. But if you know you're coming home to a situation where you completely don't have anybody, I would buy the essentials like to come home, a sweatsuit, new sneakers, headphones and stuff like that. Everything is digitalized now. So having headphones so that you can listen on your phone. We had MP3 players, which you can actually keep on the outside. You download all the information. But let me see, what else would I bring home? I hate plastic. That's one of the things I do hate. I hate plasticware. So I would never bring any plastic cups or spoons home. Um, what else? I'm trying to think. I don't know what else I would bring home other than, personal mail or letters and stuff that's dear to your heart, definitely bring home. But as far as different objects like sweatsuit, sneakers, stuff like that, those kind of things I would bring home if, brand spanking new, to wear on the outside until I got established.
Okay, well, this one kind of it's my question to you right now. So institutions like the Sing Sing Prison Museum play a pivotal role in shaping narratives. How do you envision such institutional furthering the cause of supporting and amplifying the voices of formerly incarcerated individuals, right? Like Nicole showed us the baseball, and we're talking about tangible things, but what is your feeling and opinion on that?
Well, I just hope that, it is my hope, and I know that we're in good hands, right? I know we've all met, and
Mhm.
we're definitely in good hands. I just want the narrative to be told from the point of view that it's given and not watered down, of course. Um, our stories are a part of history. Um, the incarceral system is a huge part of the United States history. If New York gets to tell their part of the story, I just want it to be done with grace and elegance and delicacy, as much delicacy as possible, because these are people's lives and experiences that really happened, and it's not make believe, it's not
Mhm.
a fairy tale or something that we're hoping people will get to understand one day. Our system is a huge part of how our government runs, so I just want it to be told with grace
So that's why we appreciate you being
yeah.
here and giving us firsthand, It's one thing for the museum to create these stories, but it's so powerful when we are here together sharing it and telling it and hearing it on our first hand. So,
Yes,
it's one thing when people get a chance to go and see the museum and hopefully see one of your works, right? And
I
and
have
now
some
you can
crochet
actually
stuff.
come back and hear it firsthand. So I love it, and I thank you so much, and
Thank
thank
you.
sharing with us, and trusting us because we are in good hands.
Thank
Um,
you.
you know, Zooming out a bit, if there's one message or story encapsulated in the items you brought home, what would you want the world to know?
Hmm. One story. uh, Wait, one story or one.
If there's one message or story encapsulated in the items you brought home, what would you want the world to know? Like, what
Um,
message would you give the world?
well, through the items that I brought home, physical items that I brought home and have home still, I would want the world to know that I don't look like what I've been through, actually. Um, and there is life after it. We can move forward after this, and things don't always have to be doom and gloom. Was it a trying time in my life? Yes, it was. But have I somewhat healed some of those broken pieces? Absolutely, I have. And I want the world to know that I was able to survive it.
Hmm. Now, real quick, this was put in the chat, but before I end my question, what objects do you think the museum should consider collecting from people that have been incarcerated?
Um, Actually, I have I have one item of my son's. It is a crochet blanket with his name, my very first crochet project. We still have it. It's in perfect, like mint condition. They kept it so neat. They didn't want to like. I made some other projects that was a hot mess, but this one particular blanket, this one particular blanket was like the perfect blanket. And what it took, what people don't understand, it takes time, it takes money to create inside, and sometimes you
Mhm.
have to like decide, am I going to buy coffee or am I going to buy yarn? um you know so am I going to have deodorant and lotion, or am I going to finish this
Yeah,
project?
because when you
So
do shop, you have to ball on a budget.
yes,
If people don't
it's a
understand, you can
budget,
have a
but I
thousand
wanted to,
dollars in the account, and you
right,
still
I
can only
want
make
the
certain choices of what to buy and when to buy it.
right, and I want the museum to highlight that, yeah, someone was in trouble and they went away, but it didn't stop their creative minds. I've
That's
met
awesome.
amazing poets, um, amazing singers, um, people who crochet that they learned that talent inside, and now they're
Artists.
self-employed. They have websites, and I'm looking at their stuff like, what? This is crazy. People have created lifestyles out of their art forms, inside, and I hope that the museum will highlight some of that artistry, some of the amazing talents that, you know, they didn't even know the fire was behind them until they got there, and that's how they were able to release some of that energy that they had.
Okay, I have one more question before I do my last one. I just saw it pop up on the Q&A. So now that we understand the significance of your archival material and museums, is there anything you wish you would have brought home that you left?
Let me see. Anything that I wish I would have brought home, that I didn't bring home.
Tangible.
There were a few items that I did leave behind, like you know, books and stuff that I'm like, can I get this book again? I
But
can't
why? Why would you want to bring it home if you can purchase it on Amazon here? That's
because
like,
the significance of having it there, you know, some people, I don't know if people are aware, but sometimes authors and stuff send signed books and stuff like that. I left books that were signed by, like, you know, TD Jakes and Dave Ramsey and stuff like that, you know, books like that, and I left them behind to the women who were going to be there so that they can have those mementos to uplift them with, positivity. um what else would I have brought home? Not just books, but there was a few items that I left behind that I wanted to bring home. I'm not even gonna tell this sriracha sauce. They had a sriracha sauce inside that you cannot
that's like a
buy.
shebang chip.
The shebang. Well, they now have shebang chips out here, but there was a sriracha sauce that you couldn't find. I still can't find it nowhere in the world. Nowhere, nowhere. It was the best on everything. The
Oh
best.
my God. Oh my God. All right. Because like I said, this is my last question to you. If anybody has more questions, feel free to drop it in. We might get a chance to do one more from the audience. But as we draw our conversation to a close and reflecting on the power of objects and memories, what message or call to action would you like the audience to carry forward?
um, First, I want to thank everybody who participated in this webinar. Um, Obviously, there you have a need to know, right? And with that being said, if you see action being taken, rallies for, the saving of human lives, at the end of the day, is somebody's mother, father, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, grandfather. The mortality rate of individuals returning home is a guesstimate of 18 to 24 months if they've served more than 3 decades of incarceration. Um, remember that. Remember that. Um, the call to action would be, if you can participate, if something strikes you that you see is inhumane, remember those are human beings behind those walls. Participate. We're strength in numbers. Participate. Just don't sit by and say, oh, that's a shame, I wish I could. Don't. It's
Mhm.
nugging at your
Even
heart.
signing a
Participate.
petition, something helps. Look right
Right.
now in Rikers. I mean, everyone is still human. So I get that, Dorian. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your experience, your story, your journey. I could go on and on and on. I am sure that this is not the last time that we're going to hear from you. We invite you to all of our events. I'm hoping to see you November, and the audience members can meet you in person as well. And we're just going to keep on sharing and advocating together. So
Yes,
thank
thank you
you.
so much. And I appreciate everyone that joined us today. And I appreciate the Sing Sing Museum.
Thank you. And we're
Thank
going to go
you.
back to Amy just to tell our audience a few words before we leave. But I know that you
I
have
have to
to go.
leave.
Yes,
I
we
have to
know
go to
that you
work.
have
So
to
thank
go.
you,
But
everyone.
Dee, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That was, I learned so many new things. Thank you for being generous with us and our audiences. Just a quick to the audiences heads up about November 9th when Tanya Pierce will be with us in conversation with our the other staff person, direct communications coordinator, Robert Rose, in conversation with Tanya Pierce, November 9th. That's going to be at 7 p.m. So it's different than our 12 o'clock session today. So I hope we can spend an hour together that evening on the 9th. And please visit our new online exhibition, go to our website, sign up for our e-blast, and join us as we take on this complicated and important history in the United States. Thank you.